a particle that seems to ignore the laws of physics, shooting up from beneath the South Pole, a hidden heat source strong enough to melt glaciers from the inside out, and an entire mountain range buried so deep under the ice we didn't even know it existed until radar picked it up. This is mysterious proof Antarctica hides unexplained secrets. This is pretty bonkers. In 2006 and again in 2014, a NASA balloon experiment called Anita picked up super strange radio signals in Antarctica. These weren't the usual cosmic rays flying in from space, these were coming up from the ground. Something deep under the ice was firing off bursts of energy. And that's not how cosmic rays are supposed to behave. If anything, they should be stopped cold by all that rock and ice, but these just powered straight through. First, they tried to explain it away with reflections or errors in their instruments, but it turns out something strange might actually be going on. Some straight up said it might be proof of a new kind of particle we've never seen before, and of course, it didn't take long for alien theories to start flying around online. So far, no one's come up with a satisfying answer. They've ruled out known particles, and nothing else really fits. The signals are real though, we just don't know what's causing them. Antarctica is supposed to be this giant frozen wasteland, but deep under the ice, it's surprisingly active. There are entire areas where the heat is rising up from the Earth's crust, and it's not just warming things up a little, the heat is melting the bottom of the ice sheet, creating massive lakes and underground rivers. Lake Vostok, for example, is bigger than Lake Ontario and has been sealed off for millions of years. Some of this heat is coming from known sources, like old volcanoes buried under the ice, but in some places, the heat levels are so high they don't totally make sense. There's no clear explanation for where all of this is coming from. One area under the West Antarctic ice sheet is releasing about twice the usual heat you'd expect from the planet's crust. That heat is reshaping the base of the continent, and scientists think it might be speeding up ice loss. So now you got this frozen continent sitting on top of a bunch of unexplained hotspots, underground water systems, and maybe even living ecosystems sealed away for millions of years. You know what's not supposed to exist under 2 miles of solid ice? A huge mountain range. At least it's not what you'd expect anyway. But that's exactly what scientists found in East Antarctica. It's called the Gamburtsev Mountain Range. It's about the size of the European Alps. The whole thing is completely buried beneath the ice sheet. You'd never know it was there without radar. The mountains are old, maybe 500 million years old. But they still look fresh, which sounds like an odd statement, a fresh mountain. But see, normally mountains that old get worn down and smoothed out over time. These ones are still jagged and sharp. It's like they were preserved in a freezer. In fact, that's literally what happened. Scientists can't agree on how they formed or why they haven't eroded like everything else from that era. Some researchers think these mountains might have actually helped form the East Antarctic ice sheet in the first place. Like the ice started collecting there because of the landscape underneath. That makes it not just mysterious geologically, but also a big part of how Antarctica became what it is today. In 2006, NASA satellites scanning Antarctica's gravity field found something bizarre under the ice in a region called Wilkes Land. It was this massive gravity anomaly. Basically, a huge area where the gravity is stronger than it should be. The reading was so intense that researchers thought something super dense must be buried deep underground. The most mainstream theory is that it could be a massive asteroid impact crater around 300 miles wide. But if that's true, the asteroid would have been way bigger than the one that wiped out the dinosaurs, and the timing lines up with the Permian-Triassic extinction, also known as the Great Dying, where 90% of life on Earth vanished. Of course, there's no actual crater to look at, it's just ice and radar readings, but that hasn't stopped people from running some wild theories. Some say it's not an asteroid at all, but some sort of buried structure, possibly ancient, possibly alien. Could the gravity spike be caused by a giant underground base? Most scientists are sticking to the asteroid idea, but they also haven't drilled into it or confirmed anything. So for now, there's just a giant unexplained mass under Antarctica. Lake Vostok is one of the largest lakes in the world, and it's been completely sealed off under Antarctica's ice for millions of years. It sits under about 2.5 miles of ice. There's no sunlight, no air, and scientists didn't even know it was there until the 90s, when radar scans showed a flat line beneath the ice, which turned out to be liquid water. Here's what makes it so eerie. The lake is warm, not boiling or anything, but warm enough to stay liquid because of pressure from the ice above and heat rising up from the earth below. And since it's been isolated for so long, anything living in there could have evolved in total isolation. When Russian researchers finally drilled down and got a sample, they found some unusual bacteria, stuff that didn't match anything we know. Then things got a little weird. The lab that analyzed the bacteria later walked it back, saying it was probably contamination. But the damage was done. People were already running with it. And to this day, no one's fully explored the lake, but some scientists think there could be undiscovered species down there. So this one's been all over conspiracy channels. If you search Antarctica on Google Earth, there are a few ice-covered peaks that look suspiciously like pyramids. The most famous one is near the Ellsworth Mountains. It has 4 triangular faces like the ones in Egypt. It's so clean looking that some people are just convinced, well, this can't be natural. Scientists will tell you it's just a nunatak, basically a mountain peak poking through the ice. Erosion, wind, and the way snow settles over time can shape peaks into pyramid-like shapes. And that's totally fair, but here's the thing. There are a number of these pyramid-looking mountains scattered across different parts of the continent. Some are clustered weirdly close together, and they're all in places nobody's really explored up close. No one's drilled into them. No one's hiked up and taken detailed samples. So until someone does, people are gonna speculate. Is it possible they're the ruins of an ancient lost civilization? Could there be evidence that people or something else lived there thousands and thousands of years ago? I hope so. In the late 1930s, Germany sent an expedition to Antarctica and claimed a piece of land they called New Schwabenland, or New Swabia. That's a lot easier to say. Well, that's not even a conspiracy though. They even dropped swastika flags from planes and mapped the coastline. But after World War II, the story gets weird. According to some conspiracy theories, the Third Reich didn't just explore Antarctica, they set up a secret base there, carrying out disturbing experiments or reverse engineering buried alien technology. What really fuels this is how much effort they put into Antarctica. The German expedition had military ships, aircraft, and serious resources for a place with no obvious strategic value, unless they'd found something or were searching for something. After the war, rumors started flying about high-ranking Third Reich members escaping to Antarctica instead of South America. Well, I mentioned the US being in Antarctica in the 50s. Well, right after World War II, the US launched a massive military operation to Antarctica called Operation Highjump. It was led by Rear Admiral Richard E. Byrd, a guy who had explored Antarctica before. There were 13 ships, 33 aircraft, and over 4,000 military personnel. The official story was that they were there testing gear and training for cold weather combat, but they pulled out after only 8 weeks. No one ever gave a solid reason why. That's where the rumors started. Some theories say they were looking for that hidden German base. Others go further and claim they encountered unidentified flying objects while flying near the coast. Byrd even made vague comments later about a threat that could fly from pole to pole at incredible speeds. There's never been any concrete proof of a run-in with something strange, but the size and secrecy surrounding this mission has left a lot of room for speculation. If you go poking around Antarctica on Google Earth, you'll eventually run into something weird. Chunks of the map that are blurred, smudged, or just cut out completely. And most people would write this off as a glitch, but some think these areas look suspiciously intentional. They're clear rectangles or odd shapes in the middle of nowhere, and there's no official explanation for why certain spots are censored or missing data. Some think these blurred out zones line up with entrances to underground tunnels, ancient ruins and bases. One of the more famous ones shows what looks like a massive hole in the ice, like a dark entrance carved into the side of a mountain. Google later patched over it, but not before screenshots started flying around Reddit and conspiracy forums. Is it just satellite stitching issues? Yeah, probably, but what's weird is how selective the blurring seems to be. And because so much of the continent is again off limits or ridiculously hard to reach, no one's really able to go check. So yeah, it could be nothing, or maybe not. Imagine you're standing on a frozen glacier and suddenly you see deep red water gushing out of the ice. Well, that is a real thing, and it's called the Blood Falls. It's been flowing out of the side of Taylor Glacier in Antarctica for over 100 years. For decades, no one had a clue what caused this. Turns out the water comes from a hidden reservoir trapped under the glacier that's been sealed off for millions of years. It's super salty and packed with iron. When the water finally seeps out and hits the air, the iron oxidizes. Basically, it rusts and turns red. That's the science part, but what makes it really weird is what's in that water. Researchers found microbes living in it, microbes that have survived without sunlight, oxygen, or fresh water, basically cut off from the world since before humans even existed. And it makes scientists wonder if similar life could exist in way harsher places, like under the ice on Mars, or in oceans beneath the crust of icy moons. I've been your host, James. I'll catch you, yes, you specifically, in the next video.